chains altogether. Even more damaging to the evolution theory than that, though, is a little thing called carbon-14. Now, radioactive carbon is like an hourglass that is inside all living things. But once an organism dies, the sand in the hourglass begins to run out. This is called radioactive decay. Nothing on Earth can stop it. And we know that carbon-14 has a short half-life. In layman's terms, we know that it is impossible for any trace of carbon-14 to last more than 100,000 years after something dies. So since evolutionists think fossils are millions of years old, they predicted that fossils cannot contain any trace of carbon-14. However, in recent years, the accelerator mass spectrometer has made it possible to measure trace amounts of carbon-14. Of course, many fossils are completely mineralized with no traces of the original carbon, let alone radioactive carbon. Nevertheless, there is a great deal of unmineralized fossil material being found, including such material as crude oil, coal, diamonds, and even dinosaur bone marrow. So what do we find when these things are tested? If you haven't already guessed, carbon-14 is present in all of these things, even diamonds. Folks, fossils are much younger than they've been telling us. And now every AMS lab in the world has the proof. Testing labs all over the world are finding carbon-14 throughout the fossil record, from top to bottom, even after carefully filtering out potential contamination. This is conclusive proof that everything on Earth is less than 100,000 years old. So this brings us to our next topic. What about all the different dating methods that they have used to conclude that these fossils are millions of years old? Well, the first thing that you need to keep in mind is that these dating methods that they speak of, like carbon dating, potassium-argon dating, and so on and so forth, are not actually used to age fossils. The so-called geologic column is what is used to date fossils. The funny thing is, fossils are used to date the geological column, which is obviously circular reasoning and doesn't make any sense, but nonetheless, evolutionists do sometimes refer to these other dating methods, regardless of whether or not you're talking about carbon dating, uranium, thorium, lead dating, rubidium, strontium dating, potassium, argon dating. No matter which dating method you're talking about, they all make wild assumptions on the side of evolution. Let me give you a comparison. All of these dating methods are equivalent to this. Say I had a burning candle that was 8 inches tall and was burning at a rate of 1 inch per hour. If I were to then ask you, when was the candle lit, you would have to make some assumptions. That is essentially exactly how all of these different dating methods work. The scientists that use these dating methods make wild assumptions that cater to the evolution theory. This is important to realize because when they date a fossil using the numbers predicted using the evolution theory, if they were to calculate a number less than what they would expect to corroborate the widely accepted theory of evolution, they throw it out. Folks, the ultimate result in all of this is basically that all these different dating methods are completely and utterly useless. They are equivalent to making up a number off the top of your head. Now, you can research this topic more, and I encourage you to do so. And you will find people who have taken fossils in to be dated by experts, only to get back wildly different numbers. It is completely and utterly unreliable. Now, the last thing that I want to bring up while we are still on the topic of fossils is that fossilization does not necessarily take millions of years, despite what you may have been told. In fact, in the laboratory, under perfect conditions, fossilization can occur in as little as a week. So no, it does not necessarily take millions of years for things to fossilize.
Steve, in your book True Legends, you talk about a Smithsonian cover-up whenever giant bones are involved. So I want to ask you the question that everybody always asks. Where are all the giant bones?
It's interesting, Tim, because of the bias of the Smithsonian and their contempt for out-of-place artifacts. Every time giants were found, it didn't matter if it was on the West Coast, the Arctic, the Antarctic, believe it or not, the East Coast, the Ohio River mounds, they always have a fabulous cutoff point, meaning once the Smithsonian is notified and those bones are sent to the Smithsonian, they're never heard from again. And there's denials. A good example of that, it was a famous Kincaid expedition in the Grand Canyon where they found the Egyptian citadel. Even the Phoenix Gazette carried that story. So, Tim, the cover-up has always been to keep this biblically relevant topic out of the minds of the people, so at an appropriate time in the future, they can claim whatever they want to claim, and they'll claim anything and everything apart from the true biblical origin of giants.
Oh, absolutely. And when you take a look at what was created at the same time Zionism was, I think it was the ADL, Anti-Defamation League. Mm-hmm. That's a Rothschild creation, and it was done so that nobody would be allowed to question the Zionist movement or its falsity. And that's why you see something like these, Southern
Poverty Law Center.
Yeah, Poverty Law Center. Those are all Rothschild creations meant to stem and keep away investigations, research, and revelations of what they're doing behind the scenes.
This government has been working overtime to take away our rights to common law through many pieces of legislation. Common law is what guarantees us an ability to correct injustices.
We see things like the warning from Tom DeLay, for instance, saying that the Department of Justice of the United States wants to legalize 12 perversions, including bestiality and sex with children. And then what do we see with the Pizzagate and the Pedagate scandals, which I have been saying and will continue to say are the key. Pizzagate is the key to bringing these people down, because Pizzagate is very real, and it leads us to Pedogate, which is the global pedophilia ring.
Consequently, since 1868, we're now on the International Maritime Admiralty Law.
Welcome back to WHDT World News. I'm Gary Franchi, and joining me now is whistleblower from the World Bank, Karen Hudes. We're going to bring you the conclusion of yesterday's interview. Karen, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
Karen, when we concluded yesterday's interview, we were discussing, or you had brought up the new Constitution that was instated in the United States. So is the Constitution that we know today in effect, or is there a different Constitution that you claim?
Unfortunately, we are being snookered by the Congress because every 2 years they reintroduce a state of martial law, and we are not under our first constitution. We are under this second secret constitution. What that constitution provides is that our tax dollars are going to pay interest to the Federal Reserve. They're not paying for any of the services that we need in our country. The federal courts, the judges, are not sitting there in courts of equity. They're secretly treating us as if we are property of the United States. When we come in there, we are not there in a court of equity. So yes, it is a different arrangement with our government.
This secret constitution, is it really more of a corporate document?
What it means is that when you go to court to protect your rights, you don't even get to first base, because that judge is not sitting in what you call a court of equity. They're not looking at you as if you're a citizen of the United States. They're handling you as if you're a person who's just servicing the debt of the United States. You're there as a thing.
So if you're just a thing in a courtroom that's servicing debt, I mean, what does that make every American citizen?
It takes away all of our rights.
So Americans don't have any rights.
Americans need to take back their rights, because our founding fathers were very clear about that. We were in a country that had consent of the governed. We were in a country that could bear arms, had the right to bear arms. They understood that we were a liberty-loving people. And actually, the fate of the world is riding on whether we have remained that. And I think we have.
Although Cleopatra is considered to be the last of the Egyptian pharaohs, author Ralph Ellis claims that Jesus was the last of the Hebrew pharaohs of Egypt. Jesus, a pharaoh? How is that possible? The historical facts show that the last pharaoh of Egypt was Ptolemy XV, who was nicknamed Caesarion or Little Caesar. Born in 47 BC, Caesarion was the son of two of the most famous parents in world history, Roman ruler Julius Caesar and Egyptian pharaoh Cleopatra. When Caesarion's mother, Cleopatra, proclaimed herself to be the reincarnation of the virgin goddess Isis, Caesarion became the son of a virgin mother goddess. When Caesarion's father, Julius Caesar, was elevated to the status of god by the Roman Senate, Caesarion was recognized as the son of God and heir to God's kingdom, the Roman Empire.
But tonight, I'm talking about those children removed from their homes intentionally for profit. Children are seized unnecessarily from their families due to the federal aid created in 1974 entitled the Adoption and Safe Families Act. It offers financial incentives to the states that increase adoption numbers. To receive the adoption incentives or bonuses, local CPS must have more children. They must have more merchandise to sell. Funding is available when a child is placed in a foster home with strangers or placed in a mental health facility and medicated, usually against the parents' wishes. Parents are victimized by the system that makes a profit for holding children longer and bonuses for not returning children to their parents. This is abuse of power. It is lack of accountability. And it is a growing criminal political phenomenon spreading around the globe.
Dat raakt mij ook, maar oké. Kun jij vertellen wat het ergste is wat je hebt meegemaakt, waardoor je zegt, en daar was voor mij gewoon toen.
Nou, dat is dus het breekpunt geweest. Je komt zo diep in die kringen. Je tekent ook eigenlijk ik heb niet met bloed getekend ergens voor, maar je tekent wel een contract voor je leven dat je zwijgt over namen van bedrijven, organisaties, personen. Dat is ook de reden waarom ik denk nog steeds leef. Je houdt je daaraan. Maar als het gaat om de meest erge dingen die ik heb meegemaakt. Ik heb net verteld over dingen waar ik stroomstoringen mee kreeg. Het geweten begon dus. Laten we het zo zeggen, ik zat in een opleiding tot psychopaat en ik ben gezakt. Ik heb het niet gehaald, ik ben geen psychopaat geworden. Dat geweten brak door. En het ergste wat mij overkomen was, dat was omdat ik zo'n goed aanzien had, zo succesvol was en zo vertrouwd was met mensen in deze wereld die dus op dat niveau speelden. Ik moet ook zeggen dat de meeste van deze mensen hadden een geloof wat afwijkt van het gemiddelde. Hè? Je hebt katholieken, je hebt protestanten, je hebt allerlei soorten van religies. Deze mensen, de meeste daarvan, hadden een Luciferiaans geloof. En dan kan iedereen zeggen, ja, geloof bestaat niet en God bestaat niet, alles bestaat niet. Nou, voor die mensen was het de waarheid en de werkelijkheid. Hun diende dus iets onstoffelijks. Hun diende wat zij noemden Lucifer. Mm-hmm. En ik kwam dus ook in die kringen. Alleen ik lachte erom, want het waren voor mij gewoon klanten. Dus ik kwam in wat ze noemden Satanskerken.
Ik wou zeggen, we hebben het nu over het satanisme.
Ja,
okay.
Ik kwam dus in Satanskerken, maar ik kwam zeg maar op route even langs, even buurten. En daar was dan op dat moment een heilige mis, hun heilige soorten mis. En dat was met blote vrouwen en wat drank en dit en dat. En ik vond het alleen maar leuk. Ik hechtte weinig of geen geloof aan hun geloof. Of ik was er eigenlijk niet eens van overtuigd dat het überhaupt allemaal wel bestond.
Het was meer een schouwspel voor jou?
Ja, ik zag gewoon de donkerte en de slechtheid en de diepte daarvan zit in de mens zelf.
Ja.
Ik koppelde het nog niet zo. Maar ook die kringen verkeerde ik dus in, omdat als gast zeg maar, omdat ik vond het allemaal wel leuk. Al die blote vrouwen en al die dingetjes die daar speelden. Het was het vrije leven. Maar er kwam een moment, toen werd ik dus uitgenodigd, daarom vertel ik dit ook, om mee te gaan doen aan offers in het buitenland. Dat was het breekpunt. Kinderen.
Oké. Dat werd je gevraagd?
Ja, ik kon het niet.
So talk about Yosemite for a minute. How many people have ever been there? So if you ever go to the States, it's one of those stops you got to have. It is a beautiful place. Just walk arm in arm. So Half Dome, kind of the cornerstone of Yosemite, we'll show to you later. It's solid granite, 5,000 feet tall. The tallest waterfall in the U.S. is in Yosemite. They have 500 giant sequoia trees. That's something else you have to see. They're beautiful. They're thousands of years old. They have 300 black bears in the park. UNESCO made this a World Heritage Site in '84. There's about 3.5 million visitors per year and established October 1st, 1890. A couple of things that people bring up to me is the UNESCO site. Because in different parts of the world, there are these clusters of disappearances at these UNESCO sites, which is a little odd.
Number 15. Incest was practiced by ancient Egyptian royalty. Mothers married sons and brothers married sisters to keep the power and the money all in the family. Like their pharaonic ancestors, the British monarchy have a long history of incestuous inbreeding.
Also, what we find at these sites, and we find them actually at all of the megalithic, which means massive stone sites in Peru and Bolivia, are these strange elongated skulls. And the problem is that this display, for example, which is at Tiwanaku, has been shut down. You're not allowed to look at the skulls anymore. That could be conspiracy, but no one has ever carbon dated these skulls, and no one has ever DNA tested these skulls, but the archaeologists automatically assumed that these people, or some would say beings, were directly responsible for these constructions, and that is insufficient. Even the Inca people are always portrayed like this. They are very Indian looking, they have long black hair. The problem is that when the Spanish arrived in Peru, and the reason why they were able to overtake the Inca was the Inca were involved in a civil war at the time, and almost the entire royal population, who were the actual Inca. The Inca was not the population, it was the royal family. They had been exterminated. So this is what Spanish portrait painters interpreted as being what the Inca looked like, and Peruvians to this day think that that's what they looked like, but we don't honestly know.
Ultiem geworden. Maar dat is allemaal omdat de mensen, zeg maar, niet opstaan. Nee. Niet beseffen wat de werkelijkheid is.
En geprogrammeerd zijn, want durf maar eens te zeggen dat je tegen het sionisme bent, dan ben je antisemiet, dan ben je... dat proberen ze...
Het negatieve, je mag zeggen het kwaad, het Luciferiaanse, het satanisme, hoe je het wil noemen. Het is een werkelijke entiteit. Ik ben werkelijk erachter gekomen dat wat ook in zo'n Bijbel staat, en het staat niet alleen in de Bijbel, het staat in zoveel boeken. Er is werkelijk een shift geweest, een afscheiding geweest van de lichtmanifestatie, waarin eigenlijk een club voor zichzelf is begonnen en een haat, een intense haat heeft, een kwaadheid heeft, die maar heel weinig mensen werkelijk op waarde durven in te schatten, want het is een allesvernietigende kracht die ons haat. Ja. Die haat de schepping, die haat het leven. En zal er ook alles aan doen om ons mensen te vernietigen. En hoe doe je dat? Door ze uit elkaar te houden. Verdeel en heers, dat klopt. De mensheid is namelijk de manifestatie van het licht. Dat is de werkelijke creatie. Zolang je die maar gescheiden houdt in allerlei zaken, zoals politieke partijen, kleurtjes waar we op afgerekend worden, noem alles maar op. Dan zorg je ervoor dat jouw grootste vijand, vanuit het Luciferiaans gezien, niet tot zijn volle potentie komt, niet tot zijn volle kracht komt. Niet kan gaan staan, want op het moment dat dat gebeurt, dan verdwijnt het. Dan verdwijnt die hele brulboei, dat monster, het monster van meer, die verdwijnt.
Is Charlie Manson crazy?
Well, whatever that means. Sure, he's crazy as mad as a hatter. What difference does it make?
you know, a long time ago, being crazy meant something. Nowadays, everybody's crazy. So, I mean, you know, like, you know, synonymous. I mean, it's an irony, man. It's a pair of ducks. I mean, are you crazy? Dressed in black? You think I don't know everything that goes with that black you're dressed in? Yeah. I didn't step out of line with God, and I didn't step out of line with the man. I did not break the law. You understand what I'm telling you? The Second World War is not over. You guys live in the overworld. I live in the underworld.
No, a bill as in an order to pay.